Hey guys, it's been the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin, and thanks for joining me today. I want to review the Mesa coin show that I just went to this last week and let you know a little bit about it and give you some thoughts on really the first show that I've walked in quite some time. The last few shows that I've gone to, I've set up at, and I'm used to setting up at shows, so walking a show is a completely different feeling and environment, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Also, just so you know, for those of you who are new to us, thanks for joining us. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good YouTube-ish type things, items, stuff, whatever. All right, on to the show. Mesa, first of all, the Mesa Coin Show, which next year will be in a larger event center, was at the Mesa Convention Center, and it's this 1960s building, and it feels like it. Like it's straight out of it. I don't know how to describe it because the exterior looks like a flying saucer, and but the room was packed. I mean, you're talking about 40 dealers in a space that I think should have held 30 dealers. A little tight, super busy the whole time. Of course, that's been kind of the MO. And then when I say the whole time, it's like it was, opening at 9 till 1, it was real busy. There's a little bit of a lull, and then you got kind of busy again, it looked like, for the afternoon. And so, from the dealers I talked to, it was, pretty busy, and I think seemed like a lot of the dealers were doing a good job. They were having a good time. And so one of the things that I was noticing for me at the show, and just how I did, was I took a lot of want lists. And so I was looking for very specific items, and I found it pretty difficult. Once again, the coin collector experience versus the coin dealer experience can be very different. But I have a lot of collectors who are looking for tougher Morgan dollars and things that can be hard to locate. And then when you locate them, sometimes they might not be priced quite right, And by the way, once you get a coin, maybe the collector that you buy it for doesn't actually want the coin, or in the interim, because I get a lot of want lists, people are always filling their own want list themselves. So sometimes I'll buy something and find out later that, my customer didn't really, have a need for it still. So it can be kind of difficult to go sometimes to a show and fulfill want lists. Of course, after I looked for want lists, I still just kind of looked around and tried to find some things that I might like for myself, or, just things that might be a kind of a fun deal, or things that are just kind of unusual. So I did buy some unusual things to show you guys later, just for fun, things to educate. I spent a lot of money on the most random thing. I bought this Canadian note that, like, okay, now, who of you would go and drop basically a couple grand on a banknote from Canada that you've never owned before, and you thought, this seems like a good idea? Like, this guy, I don't know what I was thinking, but it had a train on it, and it's got a nice V for 5 on the back, or for think, right? Did I do that right? For all my French-speaking Canadian friends, I think that's how you say 5, but I'm ready to be completely wrong about that. So the business was busy and brisk, and people were pricing things very aggressively still, and I think we'll see what happens over the coming months, if it maintains that or not. I'll try to make some predictions for that on you later. One of the things I wanted to hit on is just how fun the show was for me to walk versus being set up. So when I'm set up at a show, I don't get a chance to really go and chat much with a lot of dealers. I mean, dealers all kind of try to take a turn to get out of their table a little bit, because maybe they got to use the restroom or get some food, and so they have someone else watch their table. And then they'll come by your table and you say hi for like 30 seconds, and maybe they'll look at a coin or something and then go. And it was really nice to be able to actually spend a few minutes at each table and just talk to people and see how they're doing, and that type of thing. That was really a neat experience for me. And also, I take away ideas when I see people at shows. I see things that I consider to be best practices and try to implement them for myself. So it's always good to go to shows and see the things that you find discouraging, because you learn what not to do, right? So when my wife and I got married, before we got married, we went to about 20 weddings. And I don't mean we were wedding crashers. We were actually invited to these weddings. It's just a thing. When you're a certain age, everyone's getting married at the same time. But what we did is we learned what not to do. like there were things where like we are not doing this because this was a pain in the butt for the customer, for the attendee of the wedding, right? So there's things that I saw at the coin show where I'm like, okay, I don't want that. There's just certain things that kind of drove me a little bit batty. When you look at things like I can't stand having the lights on top of the showcase. Now some of this was halfway unavoidable because it was crowded. Like they did not have enough elbow room, and so next year they're supposed to have more elbow room for stuff like that. And probably next year I'll be setting up at the show. We'll see how it goes. But walking the show, you get a chance to see what to do, what not to do as a dealer, get a feel for what it's like as a consumer, as once again as a collector trying to find specific items. At a pretty decent sized show, it was still hard to find a lot of the items, especially if you wanted them at a good price. The other thing that I'll say about walking a show and going to a show is this something I'd really encourage you guys, if you don't go to shows in your area and you don't have any coin collecting friends, it's hard to go to a show and you just go with your spouse who loves you, and so thank God she's willing to go and do stuff like that. But still, really, if you can find people to go with, I mean, for me, it was really a great event because I was able to go with a friend and we had a lot of good times chatting about stuff. A lot of times really just talking about coins and the philosophy behind buying and selling and what are the type of things to purchase or not purchase. And so it was really kind of a neat time. And then I got to meet a few of you guys up there also, and I appreciate that as well. It's always fun. It's always good to see who's behind the name tag on a screen, right? And meet people. And then there's also a residual effect because for me, like I already did more business this week from the coin show because I had people that came from Phoenix to Tucson to the shop and did some business, which is helpful also. Just to, it's a part of walking the show and not being set up that actually is a benefit that most people don't consider. But once again, getting your name out there and being around people, this is a concept that we should all consider a little bit. Anyway, I had a great time. Thanks to Bill for putting on that show and the Mesa Coin Club. I know it's a lot of work. For those of you who weren't there before, we'll see. I still have this crazy idea of making Coin Week in Arizona happen, which would be next year this time. For those of you who don't understand what I'm about to complain about, but the difficulty is the show is next week instead of the third weekend, it's the fourth weekend. And that's difficult because in Tucson, something called the Gem Show happens. Now, if you're not familiar with the Tucson Gem Show, I don't blame you. Why would you have ever heard of this event? But basically every hotel is booked for about a month. And so if it were a week earlier, probably I'd have a shot at getting the hotel that I want to get to host the event. So we'll see. We'll see. I've got some people helping me out now with this, so we're going to try and get Coin Week to really happen, even if it's difficult, because I just like the idea of being able to provide collectors an opportunity to go to 2 different cities over a 3 or 4 day period of time, enjoy the Southwest, and get out. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I've been the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the button in the corner and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.